this is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogmen, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at miamighostchronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good? Everything is good here. I know I said it in my last show. I'm going to say it again. Happy New Year. Yada, yada, yada. I know people have asked me, am I going to do my Mardi Gras live stream? Yes, I am going to do the Mardi Gras live stream, Fat Tuesday. And for people who think it's just the thing in New Orleans where people throw beads and things like that, really what the beginning of Mardi Gras, the Fat Tuesday this was, even since Europe, not only here, it was popularized in New Orleans, but this was the beginning of Lent, okay, which was when you were supposed to give up something for Easter, all right? So this is why everybody would party. This was like the last hurrah when you had to buckle down, and this is how it came about. There's a lot of history with that. In my last year, I went into the background of what Mardi Gras is and how there is even some pagan symbology even before it was adopted into Christian things in Europe, and then it came over here, like everything. But yes, I am going to have the Mardi Gras live stream. Yes, but let's get on to the good part. The good part is who is the guest tonight at Stories of the Supernatural. I'm very excited. This gentleman has been here before. His name is Bill Bean. He is a world-renowned exorcist, spiritual deliverance minister, and is known as the spiritual warrior. Bill has helped thousands of people in America and others in 55 countries worldwide. Bill Bean's spiritual warfare ministry addresses anything from curses, blocks, attachments, obsession, oppression, to demonic possession. He's also an internationally known author, lecturer, and supernatural expert. He is currently appearing in an episodes of A Haunting Ghost Nation and Fright Club, along with a 2019 episode of the Holzer Files. Bill was also featured in the Lifetime Movie Network series I Was Possessed. Bill Bean regularly joins George Noory on Coast to Coast AM and has also appeared in 2 episodes of the George Noory TV series Beyond Belief. He is the star of House of the Dead and author of Dark Force, Delivered, 10 Steps to Victory, The Connection, Stranger Than Fiction, Dark Force Revisited, the 7th book, Stranger Than Fiction 2, Purge, and Tales from an Exorcist. And we're also going to talk about his latest book. He has a podcast every Friday night about called Warrior Mode. He appeared on the Glenn Beck podcast on Friday, August 14, 2020. He was also featured in 4 articles in the UK's Daily Star newspaper as well. Bill has appeared in the 2010 sci-fi movie The Haunted Boy and has appeared in many TV shows about the paranormal/supernatural. He's given over 2,000 media interviews and has been covered in many news programs, books, magazines, and newspapers worldwide. And this is written first person from Bill. I was victimized over and over again as a child, having been physically attacked by demonic entities. I know what it's like to suffer, and that's why God chose me to help others. I was living in a fear-based, trauma-based way for so many years. When we are exposed to high levels of fear and trauma, demonic forces are drawn to us like a magnet. They will not leave until they are evicted by an agent of God. The antidote to fear is faith. If you can trade fear for faith, then you can begin to live a great and blessed life. That's what I call living in warrior mode: faith, strength, and courage. We want the favor of God and his blessing upon us always. I once had a life that was so cursed that I was seeking death, and now I have a life that is so blessed that I wouldn't trade it for any other life on this planet. Help me welcome him. How are you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing great. And thank you so much, my dear, for having me back. Happy
On the contrary.
2024. And
Yes.
as always, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes. Well, we were talking about that you're very busy,
Yeah.
and we've spoken about it. Yeah, sometimes I know people wig out a little bit because stressors, stress goes up and down.
Hmm.
But and as a matter of fact, I mentioned to you that that the Satanism is out. Like I I think that what really
Yeah.
floored me was this past Christmas when they put a Satan goat in, what was it, in Iowa. I was like,
Yeah.
what? I couldn't believe that. I think that you would have told that to anybody 5 years ago, Bill. They would have said, no way. No
It's
way.
just
No.
the way things are progressing now, Marlene. And they just, it's so people like that will continue to push because they can.
Yes.
They'll continue to act out because they can. There's no recourse or recompense for that or no consequence. So if you know that you can do something and get away with it, well, then you'll continue to do it until you're stopped.
Well, before, you remember, there was a time where they were saying, because of the separation of church and state, that they shouldn't allow nativities. There was a time, when that was, and then when I saw it, it was like, okay, whoa, 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 what happened to the separation of state and church?
Yeah.
If you can't have a nativity, why should you be able to have any other religious display? You know,
It's just, it's par for the course for
of
everything
course,
that is taking place now. And it's my strong belief that we as a society, especially in
mm,
America, we are under the spirit of rebellion and the
yes,
spirit of lawlessness,
oh
so and
boy, yes,
selfishness as well. So um, when we look at the life of Yahshua Jesus the Christ and how he carried himself and how he treated others and what he did for others, I mean, that should be the blueprint and template for our lives that we should
yes,
follow in the order of. But now it is quite the contrary. It is the
yes,
polar opposite to where people, there are some out there that could kill somebody and make a sandwich and step right over the
yes,
body and just
yes.
go on to the next
Sociopath,
one.
psychopath, and this is the thing. I know that there's people out there, and I'm sure you might talk about this. There's people that are psychopaths and sociopaths, and then I think they have an added layer of, if not out and out possession,
Yeah.
oppression, or something whispering in
A
their ear.
demonic influence. Absolutely. Yes.
Where that it's like you said, I could kill somebody and psh, nah, nah, okay, I'm kind of hungry. I think I'll have a sandwich, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Then next,
And that,
next,
exactly.
because it's like a video game. And that's
Yes.
why some of these video games are so dangerous for our kids is because it
Yes.
desensitizes them to these types of things.
Yes.
And so it's literally like they're just playing the video game. They don't care.
Right. Well, right. That they don't understand really death. But I'm going to say, I think that holds only for young children. I think that in some cases you see young 12, 13-year olds, and
Yeah.
unfortunately they've been living a life that they may chronologically be 12 or 13, but they might as well be 23 or 30 years
Yeah.
old.
It's true.
Yeah.
I saw a
We
story over Christmas. I think there was a 14-year-old killed his sister over gifts.
Yes. Yes, and some of the things are that you look at this, and sometimes we think, what would drive somebody to murder, especially among siblings? You would think it would have to be something really horrible,
Yeah.
and it turns out to be something insignificant. And you're
So
like, "Oh my,
minute.
yes, God, what would you do?" I'm sorry, and I know you're going to be a scourge on the world if you would have gotten away with this, because if
Yeah.
you were, and then yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, we could go back to, okay, did this child endure some type of hardship? But I hate to say it, I think there comes a point where, for the safety of society, something has to be done with them.
There's no question about that. And, I guess let's just say this that I have a different viewpoint and I have a very proactive and aggressive thought pattern when it comes to dealing with the incorrigible and those that are
Yes,
committing wicked and heinous acts over and
yes,
over and over again. I'm sorry to say, and I love everybody, and I do anything for anybody, and I have and
yes.
will continue to do so. But people like that have no place in society. As a matter of fact, they have no place on planet Earth, to be honest
No,
with you, in my
they,
opinion.
and these are the people that, if you fast forward 50 years from now, they will have left a path of destruction and heartbreak.
Yeah. And the
because
devil's loving every second of it. So he
yes,
works through people like this.
yes,
Now, the devil can't force us to do anything, but what he can do is he could create a scenario, and it's all because of frequency and vibration. So all life operates on frequency and vibration. So,
yes,
um, and that's because Yahweh spoke the world into existence by his voice, the frequency and vibration of his voice. So therefore, all life operates on that principle. So if we're on high frequency, high vibration, life is good, life is positive, we're moving forward. But if we're on low, life sucks. It's a challenge. There's always a
yes,
problem, a situation, a drama, and never an answer. But that's where the devil wants us, because when the person is on low frequency, low vibration, they're wide open and susceptible for demonic attack. And the devil sends those demons in. Now, he and they cannot force the person to do anything. However, when the person, by their free will, starts to make bad decisions, those demons
yes,
will aid and abet and increase and fuel either the
yes,
rage or the continued destructive patterns
yes.
until not only is the person destroyed, but everyone around them is going to be affected as well.
That right there is what people don't understand, that sometimes it's the ripple effect of
Yeah,
evil, okay? That it's just not that one person. What they do to those around them that sometimes they victimize, those
absolutely.
people, those people, depending on spiritually where they're at or God knows what their situation in life is, sometimes they fall into, how can I tell you, a state of mind where they doubt God loves them. How's
Hmm.
that?
So
You know?
therefore, they feel that they're beyond redemption.
Right, like something
Uh,
bad happened to me because this happened to
yeah.
maybe a loved one, and
Hmm.
maybe they think God, the whatever's picking on me, nobody loves me, and it kind of like snowballs.
Yeah.
So it's like a that gift that that never ends. That evil is just not that one isolated incident of what that person did.
Exactly. So then that person will just go, it's a pattern of destruction because they don't care. It doesn't matter to them.
Yes,
They're beyond redemption anyway, so they might as well create as much havoc as possible.
exactly, exactly, and
Very sad.
it is. And sometimes I wonder. I'm thinking, sometimes I think of, whether you're an avowed Satanist or you're just a person that, I don't know if you're psychopathic or what they call atheists. But I think a lot of these atheists are in for a big surprise. But
Uh,
even then, not all
yeah,
atheists are going to do that. I want to clarify.
coming
I know there's,
sooner than later. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Marlene, that there are people that, just don't have any faith and they don't
but
believe.
they
And
don't. But still, they're not out there. They at least have some type of moral
yes,
compass.
some of those people are good and productive people. They just
Yes,
don't have any faith and they don't commit crimes or anything like that.
yes,
However, there is a flip side of
yeah.
people and what really boggles my mind is the person that says they don't believe in God, but yet they will
Yes.
believe in the devil and they will actually, take on that role and be a part of evil and darkness, but they don't believe in God. It just absolutely is mind
Well,
boggling.
it's
And
they do everything, and I'm gonna go back to the ritualism.
mhm,
If Christianity, or we're gonna go with Christianity, okay? Because this is the one that all these dark occultists target as doing the reverse of.
yeah,
If something doesn't really matter or doesn't exist, why bother reversing it? Because you know that a
exactly.
lot of them, it's like, and their targets always are Christian, either churches have been,
Yeah,
God, all over the world, churches, Christian churches, different denominations, but a lot of they've been burned to the ground.
yeah,
Okay. And if anybody thinks that the picking out a church, it was just happenstance, no. There's a reason why a church
you
is being
better believe
targeted.
it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is happening more and more now. And again, like I say, it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. The spirit of rebellion is on the world, especially in America. And it always comes back to Isaiah 5:20. What are those who call evil good and good evil? Well, here we are.
Yes. Yes. And that, but before I want to say that there was negative repercussion within society at the very least. Okay. Now it's like doesn't really matter. As a matter of fact, it's applauded. And
Yeah,
and that's a problem. It really is a problem.
it's a real problem because it's heading somewhere. And I truly believe that a great and terrible day is coming.
Hmm.
And woe to those that have forsaken God, because it's not going to be good for them. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want to see
No.
anybody destroyed and going to hell. And this is why I try to plant good seeds with people every day of my life. And I say to people, look, you don't have to believe a word I say, but I'm asking that first you pray and ask God if what I'm saying is true. And then secondly, do the research and let God guide you to the truth. And like Jesus said, the
Yes,
truth will set you free.
exactly. And I think that when what I was saying about churches, I mean, besides the symbology, it's the church. I think that any place where people gather to pray, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
we can pray individually, but I'm saying the power of prayer when a group of people get together is very
Hmm.
powerful.
Yes.
And it's almost like they want to dismantle the meeting place. How's that?
It's true. It's absolutely true.
They
Um, and it's just very sad to see. And really, Marlene, when we think about this, when we really look at the bigger picture,
Mhm.
this starts in the home.
Sure, of course
So
it
that
does.
saying, a family that prays together stays together, it's a true saying. So if you are
Yes,
eliminating God, faith, prayer
yes,
from the home, well, then, that's only going to ripple out, and that's only
yes,
going to magnify even more as the person progresses into adult years and adulthood and things of
yes,
that nature. And so that's where it has to start. And I urge parents all the time, teach your children well, teach
yes,
them faith, and say to them, look, this is how we do things. This is our order. So we are in the order of God. This is how we go about things. This is how
yes,
we go about our life. We will not deviate from it. If we deviate from it, and if you deviate from it, there is going to be a punishment and a consequence because you deviated from our order that we're to follow, which is the order of God.
yes.
And we just don't see these things anymore. It's very,
Well,
very sad.
I think that even besides that, hey, you guys, Bill, it's how it affects society because we were talking
Yeah.
earlier before, the effects are, like you said, what you're shown in the house as what's right and wrong,
Yeah.
within as far as, God would not approve of that. How's that? Right and wrong.
Right. This is how we do things.
Right. Then it's like, okay, as you go out and your children become adults or whatever, this is how our community and our society is made up as far as what are the parameters of what you would do or not do. And
Yes.
I think people misunderstand that because I think people think that, yeah, you living life, you're going to get tempted to do things that you shouldn't, you know,
That's
of
going to
course,
happen to
that's
anybody and everybody.
anybody. And I think throughout your life, it happens. The
Hmm.
thing is what you do, there's no such if a person I think says I've never been tempted, I'd be like, be quiet, you liar, sit down.
Right. Exactly right. We've
you
all
know,
made mistakes. We've all been down the long
right?
and
And you
hard
do it.
road.
Sometimes you're tempted, and you get,
Yes.
and sometimes you're like, no. And it's I think that's part of just life. But how's this? You know what's right and wrong.
Correct. There should always be a moral compass.
Yes,
And we can't grow unless we learn, and we can't learn,
yes,
unfortunately, unless we've made some type of mistake. So to learn
exactly.
is to grow. And um, I always hope that people, when they make a mistake, they can realize that and learn and grow from it. But unfortunately, some don't. They just stay in that destructive behavioral
Right, and
pattern.
it depends. And I'm gonna say whether you want to give it a religious slant or just a personal one, it's called taking responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
And I think the only ones that get a pass on this are children
Yeah.
because sometimes they're captive in certain circumstances. But once you grow older, there's a point, and I think that's part of the problem in modern society that people are saying, Marlene, okay, I don't care. People fail. The easiest, and I think maybe the initial reaction is not to take responsibility because that's harder.
Hmm.
But ultimately, really, it's people, nobody wants to take responsibility and blame somebody else or something else or whatever.
It's
And
just very sad. It's a very sad thing to see. And I've been to every major city in America many
mhm,
times over. And in the past, 10 years ago, some of those places were very nice. And then I
yes,
went back again, and it's just absolutely like it's a completely different place. So most of our
yes,
cities are in decay,
yes, yes,
just rampant with drug addiction and
mhm,
alcohol addiction and all this kind of
Yes.
violent crimes and murders. And um, so the cities, by
Yes.
and large, have just become cesspools. And I'm sorry to say that because I've been to
Yes.
some cities that I thought were
Yes.
beautiful and then went back and went, am I in the
Yeah.
same place? What happened
Let me tell you
here?
something. I went to San Francisco. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
'06 or '07. My son was stationed out there in the naval base on Coronado Island. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I took a walking tour of, the older part of San Francisco where they have those houses. As a matter of fact, they
Mm-hmm.
were Sears and Roebuck catalog houses that they're very
Yeah.
iconic. And
Yeah.
it was fine. We walked. It was getting dark, and we walked all over the place. There was no problem. There was nothing. That's less than 20 years ago. Try that now. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been to
You
San
couldn't do it
Francisco.
now.
Oh, absolutely not.
And we see that businesses are moving out of cities.
Oh
Here
yeah.
in I live in Annapolis, which is about 30 minutes south of Baltimore.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry to say, Baltimore is one of the worst cities in America. And you couldn't
Yes.
take your family and go down there and walk around those streets without the threat of
Yes.
being robbed and or
Yes.
killed or whatever. Businesses are moving out. How can you do business in a place like that? You
Of
can't.
course
And
you
so a
can't.
lot of these major cities are the same way. San Francisco being one of them. That all the businesses are leaving because you can't do
Yes.
business in something like that.
Right. Even from the big chain stores to the regular, business owner who's got a bakery.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting out of Dodge because it's like, not only don't I want to lose my money, I don't lose my life. Because now it's not
Exactly
that they
right.
rob you, they kill you, which is what we were talking about originally, as far as that there's this lack of God, empathy, anything.
Empathy
No.
is the word. Yes, absolutely. And so it's a spirit of selfishness. So what these people don't realize, these individuals that are doing all these wicked and heinous things,
Hmm.
they're robbing their community as well
Oh
because
yeah.
the good and
Oh yeah.
decent people of the community who would like to
Eventually they
have
can, they get out.
businesses and stores that they could go to and all no
Yes.
longer can do that because
Walking
everybody's
distance, they
departing.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Of
All
course.
the Walgreens are shutting down. I think Walgreens and CVS
I know there was
are
a few that.
completely gone out of San Francisco because they have a law there that you could walk in and steal up to what was it, 900 and some dollars worth
Yeah,
of
almost a
items, and
thousand
it's a
dollars. Yes,
misdemeanor. And so everybody and their brother was going in and robbing the places.
exactly. And did you see now what happened in Brooklyn? That they're displaced. This is the part I saw that I was like, we went through where kids were put on a computer learning, which I think was a horrendous idea. And they said
Yeah,
that the repercussions in how well they learned was affected. From what I'm seeing, I haven't read today's news, but they were displacing 2,000 Brooklyn students to learn on computer because they needed to use the premises for all the immigrants. And I was like, okay, okay, we just found out how horrible that idea is. And I know that in some cases there's certain students that benefit, if they have an injury, if they're sick, or they have something where they can't go to school, where learning on the computer is the way they learn. But for the majority of kids, they need to be with their peers.
that's right.
Okay, or the interaction, the computer is like, forget it. I mean, we're I know we're raising a generation of illiterates.
It's
I don't care what
true. I
anybody
mean,
says.
it's absolutely true. This is all by design, by the way.
Yes, of course it is,
This
of
is
course.
so the power elite, in my opinion, are
Hmm.
taking direct orders from the devil himself
Yes.
via the reptilian entities that are giving the orders
Yes.
to the power elite. And this is why everything is upside down and backwards, especially in America. This is all
Yes.
by design. And I wrote about this. I've written this new book is my 11th book, but in I think it was my connection book and one of the Stranger Than Fiction books, I wrote
Hmm.
about the day was fast approaching to where they would poison the air, the
Yes.
seas, the water, the food, everything, and which is poisoning the minds of people as well. I'm
Yes.
sorry to say this, but this is the most dumbed down generation of people that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yes.
And it's all by design. So if you could keep people dumbed down and focused on all the wrong things, then you
Yes.
could control them. And that's exactly what's
Once
happening here.
upon a time, you would graduate with, what they say, writing, reading, arithmetic. And
Yeah.
when it was well taught, when you graduated from high school, yeah, if you wanted to go into college, but you knew how to read, write, and do arithmetic.
Yes.
Okay. Now, long division, you tell somebody, go do long division. What are the multiplication tables? Without a calculator, forget it. It ain't going
And
to
they can't
happen.
even speak proper English. They can't
Right,
even
exactly.
speak. I mean, everything is
Right.
slang talk.
Yes.
So if you challenged, some of these young people to speak properly, they couldn't do it.
No. And it's unfortunate because, it's too widespread. Let me ask you, Bill, what have you seen in these cases that are coming to you? Have you seen like a common denominator as far as are you seeing younger people being affected in the house, adolescents, or what have you come
Yeah,
across?
all types, any age range. And the most common theme out of, and not in all the cases, but the most
Right.
prevalent thing in a lot of cases is child molestation. So
Yes.
there has to be a source point
Yes.
that causes the trauma.
Hmm.
Now, not to say that these demonic forces can't be invited in, because they can, and even in my own family story they were. Um, but by and large, the majority would be through trauma, which stems from wicked and heinous acts of child molestation,
Look
rape,
at look
whatever
at
it
the
may
look at
be.
look at this thing that we got going on with all this child trafficking,
That's
and
right.
it, and it's like
And that's all
people.
by design too.
But if you look at these stories, this has been going on for decades and decades and decades.
Marlene, these people, that's why I say this is all a joke. We live in a scripted reality. So you have the controllers, the power elite that certainly don't want to lose their position because they've got all the fame and the riches and the power and the best of the best. So they have to serve the devil. And it's
Hmm.
these, in my opinion, these reptilian entities
Yes.
that are carrying out. They're the foot soldiers for the devil, and they're carrying out the directives to these people, and they continue to do it. And there's a real agenda to destroy the everyday average citizen,
Yes.
especially in America, and we're seeing it day by day.
Yes.
Some of the worst stories, and then when you think you've seen or heard the worst,
Yeah.
something else worse
Exactly. It's
comes
like,
along,
yeah.
and it's all in my again based on my cases. By and large, it's trauma based, and so when those wicked and heinous acts take place, obviously the
Mm.
demons are um, controlling and
Yeah.
manipulating the perpetrator. But when that act takes place, some will go on to the victim because blood and secretions come out, and
Hmm.
demons are drawn to that like
Yes.
candy. It's a drug to them, and it's a drug to the power elite as well. It's called adrenochrome. It's very
Yes.
real,
Hmm.
and these entities are drawn to it. They love it, and they will stay with the victim until someone like me comes along. Not that I'm
Yes.
anything special. It's a power of God
Hmm.
working through me, and I thank Him and praise Him for it. But they have to be evicted, and
Right.
so they will stay with the victim until they are evicted.
And I know we've spoken about this before, but I wanted to bring it up again that I'm sure you've come across where you found generational
Yeah.
demons that have been following a family around for quite a while, even generations.
Yes, and this comes under family bloodline curses, and that could be like even again in my own family, that happened as a result of ritual invitation invocation. So when those demonic forces are invited in, they will come in, and then they will stay on the family until those curses are broken and until they're evicted. So that could go on and on and on, could go on for hundreds of years,
Let
unless
me
it's
ask you, because I know
stopped.
there's people out there, Bill, that say, well, how could I be held? How could I be affected by something, let's say my grandfather, my grandmother did? You know,
It's all part of legal rights. And
okay.
so when the devil has a legal right to be there, he
Hmm.
will be there. And as long as that door remains open, well, then those demonic forces will stay right there. And so my best advice for the people or families out there that A, feel that they are under curses, and
Hmm.
B, they're thinking why and how and why should I have to pay for the sins of my grandfather or whatever it may be. Get help. whether it's
Yeah.
me or somebody else, reach out and get help
Yeah.
and get this stuff broken off immediately. And therefore, you're no longer under that and subject to that. And you can move forward in what I call warrior
Right.
mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. Otherwise, you're going to continue to sit there and say, why me? Why is this happening? Why is this happening to my family?
Right.
And nothing will change. It'll only get worse.
Right. And people I don't think understand that when they make the contracts, it affects even the unborn children that are yet to be
Yeah,
born into that family line.
that's right. So this is a black cloud that will continue to linger and increase even before children are born. It
Hmm.
will be there. And then, unfortunately, they're born under that cloud. And it's a real tragedy. It surely is. And I'm thankful that God works through me and other people like me to be able to evict this kind of garbage and for people to be set free in order for them to be able to move forward. Marlene, it's the greatest feeling in the world to know that God actually worked through me to help somebody.
Bill, have you had people that have finally come to you that have said, look, I've spent years enduring this and I always blamed it on the house and I realized that I'm the one that's haunted,
Oh,
that it's
yeah, it
me.
happens all the time. Yeah, absolutely. And so people, they try to rationalize things and then they'll live in denial as well,
Hmm.
um, until they don't, until they finally get it and say, okay, well, I need help now. And
Right.
more and more people are contacting me for help. I mean, this
Okay.
this month of January is just blown out for me, and it's that way all the time. There are so many people coming from so many different directions that are suffering in such terrible ways, and I'm
Yes.
doing everything that I can by the power of God working through me to help them. And I'm thankful again that God has chosen me for this and that He works through me to help these people. I come from a background, as you know, and
Hmm.
some of your viewers know as well. I come from that fear based, trauma based way of living, and my
Hmm.
family was destroyed by demonic forces. I nearly was as well. And so I truly believe that I couldn't be here right now as this spiritual warrior had I not been there to suffer. So God knows what He's doing. I think that He chose me for this mission before I even came into this world. And I write in the book that there were several times, even as an infant and a child, that I was in some life threatening experiences. I think the devil was trying to kill me
Yes.
before I got to be where God wanted and needed me to be. And so it was all part of the journey. Do I wish that I could go back and change some things? Absolutely, especially when it comes to the suffering of my mother. If there's
Hmm.
one thing that I could go back in time and change pertaining to that, it would be, the suffering of my mother. But by and large, I understand it. I understand
Right.
that it
You
was
you truly it
necessary.
like firsthand. And I wanted to ask you because I think sometimes people also mistake that you could, how can I say this, material wise you could be well off or
Hmm.
comfortable, but still if you have that in your life, you're still not happy.
That's
In other
correct.
words, people think that, oh, which is why I think you sometimes see celebrities and people that are well off commit suicide or get involved
That's
in drugs.
right.
And you say, wow, God, they've got everything. They've got money, they've got a nice house, they've got a pretty wife or husband or whatever. They're adored, and then they kill themselves or
Hmm.
they do drugs and end up in rehab. And it's like, even if you're well off material wise, if that's in your life,
Yeah.
you're still not happy.
No, and you never can be, because you're talking about something that is designed and has a mission as well. So the devil sends those demons out with a mission of kill, rob, and destroy, and that's what it's all
Yes.
about. And you'd be shocked at some of the celebrities and
Hmm.
high-profile people that I've gone to.
Yes.
Um, you would be absolutely shocked, Marlene. And like you said, they have it all on the surface, but when you have that kind of thing going on,
Hmm.
I don't care how rich you are or whatever,
Yes.
money's not going to buy you out of that. That's for sure.
Exactly.
And so I've seen it all, but I've been in some of the worst, most horrible places that you can imagine, and I've been in mansions as well, and everything in between, and so truly, I have seen it all, and I have, as this spiritual warrior, I've gone to every different type of person there is with every different type of background. I recently received a wonderful message from a family that I helped in Cairo, Egypt, about 10 years ago, and
Okay.
the daughter was under demonic possession. Now, these people are Muslim, and
Hmm.
and yet this is a statement that the
Okay.
power of God supersedes any religion
Okay.
and any belief, because he worked through me to deliver that young lady, and the other family members were being attacked and
Okay.
demonically attacked, and so they had a conversation recently, and somehow my name came into it, and one of the family members contacted me and said, "Hey, we were thinking about you. We brought your name up, and we haven't had any. Everything's been great for us. We haven't had any problems ever since. God worked through you to help us." And they wrote like a testimony. It was
That's
it was
great.
very, very nice. It was
Of
amazing.
course.
And
Of
so
course.
again, um, it is the greatest thing
Well,
when
you
I
know
know
what?
that God's actually worked through me to help
And it
somebody like
shows
that.
that demons don't care what religion you're at either.
No, no, absolutely
It's
not.
like, yeah, they don't care.
I've been in other situations. I helped a family from France that they didn't speak English. I don't speak French, but
Right?
yet through the power of God invoked over that evil, it was eradicated and evicted. And
Okay.
those people too went on to have, a good and peaceful life. So that is just, it shows you that no matter what the situation or circumstance is, if we are calling on God and we're invoking his power over the situation, he will be there for us, he will help us, and he will hear our prayer, and he will rid those people of the evil, even if they can't understand what's being said.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like something that goes beyond you. Like you said, you speak English, they speak French, or
Yeah,
whatever. It goes beyond that. I mean, those are things that, well, it's just self-identity, cultural things or whatever. But still beyond that, it's everything is the same.
and I've been to families, and even recently, to where the family does not speak English. Excuse me. And there's one that does, and that person is like the interpreter back and forth.
Yes.
I've experienced all these different types of things, Marlene. It's just amazing. And it's been such an amazing journey for me. And I'm
Okay.
so thankful. I, again, like you read in the opening, I truly had a life that was so terrible. I was seeking death for a long time. I was physically attacked by demonic forces between ages 5 and 12, and it was horrible. But God saved me, transformed my life, and
Hmm.
then bestowed this calling upon me. And now I have such a good and blessed life that I wouldn't trade my life for anybody's life on this
But
planet.
you know what, Bill? There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that find themselves in similar circumstances when they're
Yeah.
young. But instead of doing what you talked about, they kind of that's their excuse for my
Yes.
life is a wreck. And well, what do you expect? Look what happened to me. And this is the crutch they use throughout their life,
You're right.
and they never they almost like they curse themselves. How's that?
And the devil will work through people like that to create curses and to so again, it goes back to that analogy about the black cloud.
Hmm.
That's a person that has a black cloud over their head, and they will be a curse to anybody that comes into their path. And so and I was once there. I was once one of those
Right.
people. But now every single day of my life, I pray and ask God to work through me to be a blessing to somebody every day.
Yes. And what let me ask you, as far as what have you seen as I guess, have you do you see more cases of possession or just oppression, or what is it that you're running across?
Well, it's more oppression, but I've been
Yeah.
involved in many serious cases of full blown demonic possession.
Okay.
I've seen people levitate. I've seen limbs twist in ways that the human body can't
Has done.
twist without bones breaking and ligaments tearing. I've heard people speak in other voices, females that have these deep masculine voices coming out of them. Um, I've seen eyes go all white, all black, all red. In one case, they
Wow.
went like a greenish, yellowish color with reptilian slits. Um, I've seen it all. The only thing that I haven't seen is a person's head turn all the way around. But other than that, I've seen it all. I've experienced superhuman strength. I've seen people that were possessed, that their tongues were coming out serpent like a snake,
Hmm.
just people trying to bite me, spit on me, some trying to shoot me, stab me, slash me. You just wouldn't believe it. I have experienced it all and then some. And in a lot of the cases, also, not all, but in a good number of them, people also experience the UFO phenomena,
Yes.
Bigfoot, all these types of, and it's
Yes.
all connected. And that's why I wrote the Two Stranger Than Fiction books, because it's connecting the dots. All these things are connected. I've had every type of supernatural experience that you can imagine.
Hmm.
And, all this is interlinked. And then I started finding the more and more cases that I got involved in, the more and more other people were having those types of experiences too. And it sort of brings everything full circle. And
Yes.
so we live in a world that there's a lot that's unseen. So if we as human beings use a small percentage of our brain, the number's been thrown out there that it's 10%. And if that's true, then there's 90% of something going on around us that we can't see or perceive.
I think that if 10, 15, 20 years ago, or even before that, you would have said demons, possession, and extraterrestrials in the same sentence, they'd be like, "What? Are you crazy? What?
Yeah.
No, it's two different things. No, what are you
People did
talking
call
about?"
me crazy because I started speaking about this years ago, Marlene,
Uh
and
huh.
there were people that were in the paranormal community that, boy, it
Yes.
enraged them. And then there were people in the UFO community that were nuts and bolts, and it enraged them as well. So this
Yes.
guy's a nut. How dare him try and connect all this together? Well, here we are.
Well, and I'm sure you've heard about, the skinwalker, the people that were there, not the group that's there now, but the previous ones that were there for like 20 years,
Yeah, I
where
know,
they
because
had it.
I had involvement with Robert Bigelow, who was the
Okay.
original Skinwalker Ranch guy. These people were
Right.
all tied to the CIA, and this goes all the way back to when I started having regular UFO sightings and sightings of non-human looking beings and interactions with them as
Right.
well. And Robert Bigelow, um, Dr. Eric Davis and others got involved in my case. And then all of a sudden, and I'm not blaming them, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I could tell you this, that I came under some very heavy surveillance from black helicopters, black vans, phones being tapped. You wouldn't believe it. I went through all that. I've had Men in Black experiences as well. So I know they're real. Um, and others that sent representatives to me that wanted to know more about what I was seeing and experiencing and all this. And so, when you say that, about Skinwalker, yeah.
Well, but
Mm-hmm.
they themselves, they've, have talked about how people that were there that weren't even actively investigating, even security personnel, they went home and they were having that called that hitchhiker effect, where they were having very disturbing paranormal events, as
Yeah.
in, I mean, like really disturbing, to the point that some of them, from what I understand, didn't return. And then you think, okay, well, what does that have to do if what they had out there originally was UFO sightings?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with all these paranormal events and horrible looking creatures, from what I understand?
Yeah, it's all spiritual in nature.
It's
It's
spiritual.
all
Exactly.
spirit, and people now they're starting to understand this a little bit.
Yes.
But before, they would deem someone like me to be a complete mental
Yes.
case. But now they're starting to figure it out that all of this stuff is connected. It is related, and I've also been saying for many years, Noreen, Marlene, that um, the day was coming that people were going to start seeing these UFO craft and even non-human looking beings
Yes.
coming right out in the open. And now we're having this, Marlene. We just had,
Yes.
in Miami.
I know.
Uh,
I looked at that. I was like, when I heard it, I thought this is not real. Yeah, that's when I
mhm,
first heard it. Was like, what? Turns
mhm.
out, yes, the bunch of police went out there. And I was thinking, I wonder how the dispatcher put that call out. But they had swarms of police out there.
Now, again, I've heard a lot of stories about this. I was not there.
Hmm.
Now they're starting to show some footage of what
Something.
looks to be something. Um, and eyewitnesses are starting to talk about seeing these entities and things of this nature. I also heard reports of power being shut off,
Yes, I heard
black
that.
copters flying over the thing, the
Right, and
airport.
electronics not
Yeah.
working.
So, again, I wasn't there. I don't know, but
Right.
there seems to be a lot of people talking about this. And from what I've heard, there was almost 100 police cars dispatched
Yes,
to the scene. You're not going, 100
exactly.
police are not responding for some
For nothing.
kids fighting with sticks or
Yes,
firecrackers or whatever.
yes.
That's not going to happen. So something happened there. Something, far more
Usually, what
than,
happens is the first ones there will raise them the rest of the radar and go back. There's nothing out here, or hey, it's just
right, call it off. We got it under
yeah,
control,
it's some
call it off.
kids. They're just doing
Yeah,
stupid. Forget
right.
it.
But these vehicles kept coming. I saw some
Yeah,
video footage. I mean, you could see they were lined up all the way down the road. They were continuing to respond. And then there's footage of what looks to be, and again, I was not there, so I don't know, but
right.
there's footage of what appears to be a very large
Yes,
entity of some type that
just walking.
and is very distorted. Now, I will say this from personal experience.
Uh-huh.
These types of, and whether it's the UFO craft or non-human beings,
Right.
I've taken up teen photos of this kind of stuff, okay? And a lot of the images get blurred for a reason because there is some type of force field
Hmm.
around these things that affects
Yes.
cameras in that way.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people, they're easy to say, oh, look at that. Oh, why can't you ever get a clear picture of the UFOs and the Bigfoot or whatever? Well, that's why, because there's a force field around them that will prohibit
Yes.
unless they want to be seen. And if they want to be seen, then that force field will go down and they will allow such a picture to be taken. But otherwise, that force field is going to be there for a reason, and it is going to distort any type of documentation, whether it's photo, video, whatever it may be. And that is all by design. Now, I
Yes.
know this from personal experience because I've taken up teen photos of these types of things,
Hmm.
and I know what they do. I also have seen these things and I've seen them go invisible as well and then reappear. So I know it's real because I've had the personal experience
Yes.
myself.
I think that they might either have the ability to cloak themselves, or
Mhm.
how can I tell you? Either they're there. It's not that they
Yeah,
disappear. They're there. You just can't see them. They cloak. They have something way of cloaking themselves.
absolutely right. It's some type of cloak, a distortion
Uh huh.
of some sort that, renders them invisible to, I guess, humans. But there have been instances, Marlene, to where I knew something was there, or I may have seen something and then it
Right.
disappeared. But then I take the picture
Yes.
and then it captures something.
And it captures. Yes. You'll have people say, if I look through the camera, I can see it. But if I look with
Mhm.
my eye, I can't see it.
Yep.
And I tell everybody, ghost hunters, a perennial problem for ghost hunters had always been your batteries draining.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
for
seen that
years and
too.
years and
Yeah.
years and years, it was always told take extra batteries,
Yep.
or electronics would just malfunction. Things that normally would work okay, they just would stop working for no apparent reason.
Back in the 90s, in 1995, I started having regular and frequent sightings of these objects and again, non human beings. Um, I started taking groups of people out for like these sky watches, and I've had as many as 50 people in a group with me that witnessed these objects that came over us. And there were also several occasions to where um, people were set up with their cameras or camcorders on a tripod, and they start, and then all of a sudden everybody's cameras just went, the
At the
batteries
same
were
time,
just
like,
completely gone. Yep.
what are the odds on that? Come on.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
the odds on that?
So I've seen it, and I know the abilities and capabilities of these beings and or entities, what they can do. And again, this is all based on frequency and vibration, and a manipulation of frequency and vibration and energy in the atmosphere as well.
I think, and also I'm still kind of on the fence about this, but you'll see that there's also a lot of sightings of what look like dogmen or some type of
Yeah,
cryptids that like are hand in hand with the UFO and extraterrestrials, and it's
it
like,
all goes together. Yeah, and there's many eyewitness accounts of these entities, beings, whatever they are, getting aboard UFOs and coming off of them also.
yes,
So this
yes,
is,
and you hear that and you're like, what?
yeah, it's all very much linked, and I believe all of it. Again, I've had personal experience even with the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe creatures. I've had those experiences, and so I fully understand that it is all linked. As a matter of fact, there was a photograph taken of me in 1969 at age 3. My dad took the photo. It was a Polaroid photo,
Uh-huh.
and it was of a little boy, me, standing in front of the bushes. And in the photo, it was as if a dimensional doorway had been opened. And all of a sudden, there were 3 humanoid beings standing behind me in single file. There
Boy.
was a very large being that had the face of a lion that was standing behind me over my head. There was a little gray alien looking thing that was standing to my left. And to the left of the little gray alien guy was this uh, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe looking creature. And this is all in the photograph. Again, it was as if the doorway was open at that precise
Yes.
moment, capturing all of those entities in the photograph.
Right. Like, how much don't we perceive that's
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
That's there.
absolutely. So that's 1969. And
Hmm.
so, this has been around, but it is all leading somewhere now. I think that this is a momentous occasion is coming.
Yes.
So the latest, I saw the story today out of Brazil that a video was captured of what appears to be, again, non-human looking beings that were
Okay.
moving back and forth on top of a mountain or a hill somewhere over there in Brazil. And I
Right.
think we're going to start seeing this stuff now everywhere.
You know what my concern though is, and I'm sure you've heard of this, Bill, that they also do use the extraterrestrials. Like I
Yeah,
say, falsely.
of course.
You
And
know.
this could be the great alien invasion that they plan, and this could be. And look, I don't want to panic anybody,
Oh,
but
it's like,
but I want those of you that may be watching right now, please take my word for this, that now is the time to draw close to God, and really this
yes,
is the time to strengthen your faith, because if you do, God will keep you in his hedge of protection. He will keep you covered and empowered as well, and that's what you want, believe me, because um, this could very well be a fabricated
yes,
type of event that may be coming, that the power elite have planned to try and bring mass destruction on the earth. Now, do
right.
I
And not
know
that
this
they
to
don't
be true?
exist, but
Yeah,
that they're
right,
being that it's going to be manufactured.
right. Now, I can't say and wouldn't dare say that that's what's going to happen, because I don't know. I can only speculate on it, but I
Right.
have a feeling that we are going in that direction. So you definitely want to be right with God, and you want to have his favor and covering and protection over you. That way, when these times come down like this, if in fact it does happen that way,
Yes.
then you'll have blessed assurance in knowing that God's with you and for you. And if God's with us and for us, then nothing is going to stand against us.
Of course. Of course. And I think that I want to say that sometimes people, um, they, what can I say? They become a little bit, they see this as too enormous. How's that?
Yeah.
You know, they
they kind of feel like, when the enemy's portrayed as invincible
Hmm.
and we're not. And I think there's
Yeah.
a danger in that.
Yes, because it'll cause the person to shut down.
Yes.
And when the person shuts down, then they're just giving up. And then some really bad things can happen. So I'm challenging all of you out there now, whether you have faith or not. And if you don't, please consider what I'm saying to you. And the way that you can consider this is to ask God, are you real? Are you there? Can you
Yes.
help me? Will you help me? If you will, I'll do my part. And that's what I did, when I decided to make Yahweh first in my life and have Jesus into my life, was that I had an epiphany one day and said, if you'll help me and
Hmm.
take this from me, then I will serve you. And that's exactly what happened. It was a process because I
Right.
developed negative behavioral patterns, and it was two
Hmm.
steps forward and three steps backward. But I eventually got there. And once I got there, it was like I'd been let out of prison, and
Yes.
it was like all that horrible stuff happened to somebody else. I mean, I was so far
Exactly.
removed from it. So if he'll do it for somebody like me, he will surely do it for all of you
Right.
out
And
there.
people
So,
sometimes, or people would think, I imagine that, oh no, some of the bad things I've done, forget it, like,
right, they think they're beyond redemption.
yes, it's
And
like, oh
that's
no.
not true, because if you're sincere and you really don't want that life anymore, and you want to come to God and you want to do good and you want to be good, then he'll be there. He never leaves us, we leave him by our own free will. So
Sure.
please listen to what I'm saying to you, because I've been down all the long and hard roads in life, and God saved me. He transformed my life, and then he put a calling on my life to be this spiritual warrior. So again, if he would do it for somebody like me, he'll do it for any of you out there. So Marlene,
Yes.
I know we're coming up on the end here, and
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
thank
Yes.
you so
Exactly.
much.
It has been
It's
great
always a
listening.
pleasure to be on with you. I look forward to
Likewise.
coming back the next time. And for
Yes.
those of you that may want to get a copy of the book,
Yes. Your book. What
My
is?
Life Transformation from Victim to Victor, visit BillJBean.com. You
Yes.
can get a copy there, and there's two buttons. So, one, if you want a signed copy from me, I will personally sign it and send it to you. Or two,
Okay.
you can just order directly from Amazon. And same thing, if you're out there and you're in spiritual need and you're going through a
Yes.
terrible time and you're under spiritual attack, don't hesitate to
Yes.
contact me. Same thing, BillJBean.com. You can email me directly from the site. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can, and I'll do everything that I can by the power of God working through me to help you.
Let me ask you something, Bill. And I know you've come across that as the last thing. I think sometimes people, and not all the time, they find themselves in these things and they've gone to clergy, different denominations,
Mm-hmm.
and they get turned away or poo-pooed. And
Happens all the time.
I think they still need to speak to somebody like you, because it's not like, not everybody in clergy is that way. Is going to be dismissive or make you think you're
Yeah.
crazy, you know.
It's sad because
Yes.
it's caused some people to leave their church, some to
Yes.
lose their faith,
Hmm.
because they went to somebody that they thought that they could trust, and somebody that they
Yes.
thought would, listen to them and help them, only to be turned away and say, what do you want me to do? I'm not trained in that, or in other instances, you need to go see a psychiatrist and things of that
Yes,
nature. And that
exactly.
really just destroys a person. And it's very, very sad and unfortunate. And in a lot of today's churches, and I hate to say this because there's still
Yes.
some good churches left, but
Hmm.
by and large, a lot of these churches are operating as corporate entities. They
Yes.
don't care about anything other than one thing, and that is
Yes.
cash. And
Yes.
so these would be under the label of greedy dogs that can never get enough. And
Yes.
if you're a part of a church like that, and you go and you say, hey, I've got this spiritual problem, they're going to dismiss you so
Yeah.
fast
Yeah.
unless you have a very large amount of cash that you're offering, and then maybe they'd send a representative from the church to go out there. Maybe in some instances, no. But
Hmm.
it's so sad because that's what it all comes down to now in a lot of these churches, is cash and operating as a corporate entity with a bottom line. And it's sad
Yes.
and unfortunate. And I say to people that are a part of, I call them dens of inequities. If
Yeah.
you're a part of such a thing, run, get out of there.
Yes.
You are not being spiritually fed. You are not under spiritual covering of God. You are taking part in a facade, It is a production. These people go, they're not worshiping God. A lot of these people, they're worshiping the pastor, and they're so
Exactly.
emotionally invested that they'll go along with anything and everything, Marlene, and it's so sad.
Again, and I'm glad you clarified that, Bill, so that people can call you and get in touch
Yeah.
with you, even if they've had a prior experience where they were dismissive. They
Yes.
can still contact you and
Yes.
reach out to you for help.
Absolutely. I don't turn anybody away. I do everything that I can. Again, by the power of God, it's not me. I'm nothing special. It's the power of God working through me. And I certainly strive and have the intent each and every day of my life to be somebody for somebody every day.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Bill.
It is my honor and pleasure, and I pray that 2024 is a great year for you and your family and
Thank
for
you.
all your viewers and listeners as well. And I
Yes,
look forward to the next time.
for all of us. Take care, Bill. Bye
You
bye.
too. God bless you. Bye bye.
Likewise. Bye bye. Wow. That's the thing. Bill Bean is, I'm lucky if I get an hour if, because he's a busy guy. He's a busy guy. I mean, and it's, I'm not saying that he tells me it, but I believe it. And for a lot of different reasons, yeah, you're going to get people, I'm sure, that contact him who think there's something going on spiritual, and it's not. Maybe there's other things. Maybe they're just stressed out. There's a psychiatric problem, whatever. But believe it or not, there's a big, how can I tell you? There's a big, I don't know if you want to call it because of the stress, or there's people, believe it or not, that go through a lifetime of having, weird is not the right word, but really having negative paranormal events around them. And they just finally come at some point, they get, either they've figured out they can't outrun it. In other words, maybe they've moved from house to house, or they lived enough years of their lives that they look, okay, something's going on with me, that they look at certain events that have happened to them that they could, that they think, okay, or they've witnessed or even seen, or I mean, it could be the bottom line, that they come to the breaking point. It can be when they're 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, 70. Yes, people sometimes live their whole lives before they, oh, I don't want to say bend the knee, surrender, as far as surrender to the thing that I need help with this. I need help with this spiritual problem because I can't outrun it. I can't move out. Um, I can't. How was that? Pretend it doesn't exist. How's that? Unbelieve it. Like, I'll just believe this doesn't exist and it'll just go away. That doesn't work either. So you get to that point. By the way, some people never get there, where you reach out to somebody like Bill Bean and say, "Look," or maybe you've even gone to clergy and they've kind of like said, "No, you okay? Whatever, drugs, drinking, crazy, anything but." What you're trying to tell them is, no, this is a spiritual problem. And by the way, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. A lot of times, these clergy, again, different denominations, they do believe you, especially if you come across like a sane person and you're describing certain events, that they get the flavor. They know that you're not crazy because they know that's very probably true. That's why they're dismissive, because they don't want to do that battle. They're afraid. They are afraid. And instead of saying, I mean, let's face it, if you go to a spiritual leader and they tell you that, you're like, okay, then you're a fraud. How can you, let's say, go and preach or operate and, you know, be basically the spread the word of God or whatever, whatever the church stands for. But really, when you're confronted with a situation like this, you run away from it. That means you're a fraud. That means you really don't believe in the power of God. You really don't believe in the power of good over evil. Okay? That's what I'm saying. I've spoken to people through all the times I did the paranormal work who had mentioned to me, hey, you know what? I couldn't even get a priest to come out here and give a blessing. Or others were like very like snobbish. And this is the thing. A lot of people, how's this? sometimes people think, as far as intervention from the church, whether it's Catholic or whatever, it's like, oh, it has to be an out and out possession, like what we've seen, unfortunately, that the person's possessed and, like he said, speaking in tongues or doing weird. There's a there's a series of events that can torment a person besides out and out possession. Okay. That by extension will torment the family because if they live under the same roof, whether they're tied by blood or by marriage, all right? That doesn't have to be so Hollywood like, all right? So that when you go to somebody who should be an authority in spiritual matters and you describe them to them, and they might look at you and say, like, you look perfectly okay. Like why are you doing backflips and do it? Because sometimes demonic oppression and obsession and influence is not that traumatic. But I mean, how's this? You're the only one in your skin, either because of thoughts that you're having, experiences, things that you're seeing, things that are going on around you, and you know that there's something, or like what he was saying, or something that you've experienced since childhood, or you saw even in your family going on. Now that you're an adult, maybe 20, 30, 40 years later, and you kind of like putting two together, and you still feel this negative energy running through your life. But that doesn't mean you come across as a crazy person. Would you try explaining that maybe to some clergy? And like I said, they're dismissive, or maybe you need counseling or psychiatric or drugs or alcohol instead of. And of course, they don't want to confront. Especially, I want to say, the more sane you sound, the more scared they get, because they believe in it. They don't believe you; they really believe you. Especially when you say, "Look, this has happened. I've seen this or this," and you give them a rundown, and this is why I think that what's going on is demonic or something negative. I don't understand. I need your help. The more logical and sane you sound, the more scared they're going to get, and they don't want to confront it. And so the alternative is they dismiss you, or or they kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? They kind of like downgrade it. Like, oh, maybe you're stressed. Are you stressed? Are there stressors in the family? Because sometimes people will go ahead, and instead of looking at the real problem, they divert the attention to something in the paranormal. Or are you watching too many paranormal shows? Something like that. And don't get me wrong, I know there's situations, there's instances where that is exactly what's going on. People divert attention from the real problem onto paranormal or stuff, or name it. But there's other times that people realize and know full well that there's something going on, something in their house, something that walks with them, something that's maybe walked with their family, that they know, I need help to set myself free. And by extension, maybe even your offspring, their families, whatever. All right. And I'm going to say this and I know that, for Catholics, a priest can come and do a blessing. And maybe sometimes that works. And as a matter of fact, I was reading an article the other day where they were quoting Father Lampert, who's the exorcist for the Diocese of Indianapolis. And he's done a bunch of shows. But anyway, in it, he was saying how when people have come to him complaining of paranormal events or whatever, he says, usually when prayers are done, he says, and it's a human soul, whether they're in purgatory or there's something, he says things quiet down. Like the mass, whether it's a mass that they say on behalf of somebody that's passed on, or there's prayers, or the priest prays with the person or persons, things quiet down. He says, but when they do the same thing and it amps everything up, he says that's one of the indications that maybe what's there is demonic or not human. All right. Because he says sometimes, whether it's a visitation from a human soul, a ghost, whatever you want to call it, it's clamoring for prayers. Maybe it's unresolved things, whatever. The prototypical things that we think of as a human soul that's trapped for whatever reason. But the prayers basically is like soothes it. or sends it on its way, whatever. But when it's not, the same prayers will actually spike up the activity or the level of malevolence. How's that? All right. And, but you know what? Based on my experience, even to get sometimes even the Catholic Church to get involved in anything that's, what's the word I'm looking for? That's authentically, or treated as something authentically either paranormal. Even I'm not even talking here demons. I'm talking here that you're getting haunted because you got, maybe if it's not a family member, it's the old owner of the house, who knows? It's like, it's like, okay, you're only going to pay attention to me if I'm coming in there spitting out pea soup. In other words, where they supposedly they check you for psychiatric problems. I get all that, but there's other instances that you're not there. It's not that severe. You don't need to maybe have an exorcism, but you still need help so that you don't end up needing an exorcism. All right. And maybe, I'm sure you've heard even people sometimes that are pious or close to God or say prayers, sometimes they can get attacked too. So again, it's always good to reach, and the good thing is that nowadays with the internet and video chat and everything, um, you know, people can reach out and get help from somebody like Bill Bean. I said that I brought it up on purpose. If you find yourself in that situation where you've had a negative experience with some type of clergy who was dismissive or did like a half-hearted, okay, I'll do this for you, and you can tell, man, you're just doing this to like just shut me up and send me on my way. And of course, how's this? If you're either a priest, a minister, whoever, and you say prayers against something, whether it's just paranormal or evil, and you don't believe it, what effects do you think that prayer has? None. None. Intent, belief is everything. If that person, that individual that's praying with you, let's say as a spiritual leader or whatever, doesn't believe, it's like you might as well have gone to the stranger on the corner and said, hey, can you come over and pray with me at my house? I mean, in other words, belief is everything. Intent is everything. The intent, the belief that these prayers have an effect, that God, the power of God, can overcome whatever is here. But whatever it is, whether it's a human soul or you must bow before it. If that individual does not believe it, it ain't going to do for your situation. Which is why I think Bill Bean was pointing out that unfortunately there's a lot of people that have these positions in these churches. Again, different denominations. Oh, they're there because they're making money, and it's nice, not to really bust too much my butt. But when it comes down to, the showdown at the OK Corral, when the real tough guy comes into, they run for the hills. They're not there. They don't confront it because it's like, what? You want me to what? What? Believe that what I maybe stand on a pulpit or on a lectern and talk about it every Sunday to my followers, it's only, I really don't believe it myself, or I'm scared of it. Come on. The church would empty out kind of quick, but do you see what I'm saying? That in and of itself, that is the key to everything. If you, and not only you, or the person that's with you that's going to help you. And if you listen to Bill Bean believes, he knows when he talks these things and he says what he's seen and how he handles these situations, he believes the power of God can overcome all of this. It can. So again, if you're one of these persons who either were scared of going to clergy Number one, maybe you're kind of agnostic, or you kind of poo-pooed it, or you kind of thought, well, I've always been like an analytical person. I never believed in that. Or you even had the experience that you were dismissed by somebody and made you feel childish, or even a liar, a liar, or are you seeking attention, or one of those deals? Okay, don't what's that saying? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You know, go and talk to somebody like Bill. Contact Bill. Contact Bill and see. Hey, and you know what? You can tell. I think he's the kind of person that if you contact him and you start saying, "Look, I think this," and if it's not, I'm sure Bill will tell you the same thing. He's going to say, "Look, luckily for you, this is not what you think it is. It could be this, this, and this, but it's not a demonic attack. It might be X, Y, Z." All right. And sometimes it's good to get that feedback from somebody. He's like, he doesn't know you. He doesn't know your background. He can't, he's not going to wiggle waggle one way or the other. You know, I'm sure he's come across people like that where it's like, guess what? Lucky for you, this isn't a demonic attack. This might just be uh, something else. By the way, I want to clarify this. Things happen to people. You could be, not every bad things happen. Very bad things happen to different people in different moments, personally or to other. That doesn't mean that there's a demonic attack. It doesn't. Okay, just things like, sometimes people put themselves in circumstances where bad things happen, and it's like, you kind of contributed to that. You went somewhere, did something really risky, and when things happen, it's like, well, what are the odds on that? But sometimes things occur unplanned for, not looked for, and not all the time is it tied into something dark or demonic. All right, but then there's other times where you see a pattern that, yeah, there might be something there, and again, you need to speak to well-being and help them clarify. Or, and I'm gonna say, even for the person who's never spoken to anybody about it, even their married partners, their spouse, they've had this doubt in their mind, like, hey, you know what? I know that something was going on with my family, but it's almost like if I talk about it, I'm gonna make it real. But they can't escape that doubt, that feeling that, God, I have that feeling that this is, and you kind of squish it down sometimes and don't think about it, but then it comes right back up because everywhere you go, there you are. Sometimes it's good to speak to Bill Bean and say, look, I don't want to sound crazy, but this and this and this and this. And I have the suspicion that it's this and this and this. And I've never spoken to anybody about it because maybe you may even come from a family that would think you're crazy, or maybe you consider yourself an analytical person. You think people would laugh at you, your coworkers, your friends, your family. Or you might even have a position where it's like, man, if this got out, you're like, I would never outrun it, outlive that I actually considered that I had some type of spiritual thing going on with me. Or even with a spouse. How's that? Sometimes it's good to speak to somebody outside of that and get that doubt. Talk about it. Talk about it. And I'm sure you can tell he's not going to wig out on you and go, huh, you what? Oh, that's incredible. He's gonna listen to you. He's gonna listen to you and tell you what he thinks. But there you go. Anyway, guys, I have a fantastic lineup of guests coming. 2024 is going to be an exciting year for interviews. Some new, some like Bill have been here before. Okay, again, go to Miami Ghost Chronicles, mpellicer.com. Links to everything. Go to eerie.news for my articles. Well, no, and Stranger Than Fiction, stories.com. All of those will lead over to whether it's articles, written articles, videos, podcast connections, links, whatever pleases you. And again, Thank you so very much for being part of my audience, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Till then, take care.